She's like a sickness in my brain, a vision standing by the window pane. She ripples through the blinds and leaves me in a daze. It's in the way her body moves me, the way she grabs me and intoxicates, until the signals in my mind forget to operate. Fragile skull. I take my pleasure from my alcohol. She'll never give you any time at all. She just comes and goes, you know.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and thank you for joining me for another coffee and crime time. Admittedly, this was a very tough case for me to cover, but when I started getting deep into the research, I understood that it's also a very important case, not just on a micro level in regards to Harmony Montgomery, but on a macro level regarding every other child like her whose voice has been taken away because there was no one there to advocate for them. And although personally, I wanted to run as far and as fast as possible away from this case, I understand that bringing awareness to what happened and what is happening all over the country, all over the world on any given day, that is far more important than my own personal comfort at this point. So I know that these cases are tough for many of you because they're tough for me. So I know that they must be tough for you, but I hope that you stick through this case with me because, as I said, it is important to Harmony, to so many like her. Before we dive into the video, though, and before I get completely worked up, let's have a word from the sponsor of today's video, Native. And I love talking about Native. It makes me really happy, which is good, because I'm about to be very sad, very mad, but for a few moments, we can live together in the yummy euphoria that Native has created. I've been exclusively using Native deodorant and Native body wash for over a year now. I've been using the deodorant for much longer than that, but the body washes have quickly over these past 12 months become like my all-time favorite thing in the world. And there's so much to love about this brand, right? Native deodorants are made with familiar and simple ingredients that you know and love, such as coconut oil and shea butter. They have a wide range of scents that are simple and effective, and they all smell so good. It's hard to pick a favorite because they all smell good. And they're always adding new and limited edition scents. For instance, right now, you should check out Native's new limited edition cupcake-inspired collection that they did with Baked by Melissa. Last month, I told you that I could not wait to try these scents, especially the ginger lemonade cupcake, and now I have it, and it is just as delicious smelling as I thought it would be. It's so good. These scents remind me of summer so much, which is tough because it's so cold out. I've also been loving the sea salt and cedar scent so much, even though my husband keeps stealing it and the body wash because he apparently loves it too. And I've also been using the cotton and lily scent, which makes me feel very nostalgic for spring. It's very like clothes drying on a line outside, fresh, like fresh air, fresh breezes. It's a very comforting scent, especially in the middle of this very cold winter here in upstate New York. So simple and effective ingredients, amazing scents, that's all great, but do they work? Yes, they do. Native stays on all day with 24-hour odor protection, even after a full day of moving around or a full day of exercise, and even after hours of sitting in front of hot recording lights, even in summer, whenever that season comes back. Native also offers a plastic-free version of their deodorants as well. Inside is the same great formula, but a more sustainable packaging, and they also have the best body washes I've ever used in my life. I keep saying this, and I know it sounds dramatic, but I mean it. And now I have the whole Baked by Melissa line in the body wash. The fresh peach cupcake has become a staple in my shower these past few weeks. These all smell so good. And I love the big bottles because I go through the smaller bottles much too quickly. It's hard to not because it smells so good and it foams so beautifully. Like it foams so beautifully that you just want all of this lovely fragrant like foam all over you. So I always end up using way more than I need to. Don't be like me. 3 deodorants would usually be $39, but if you click on the link in the description box and use my code stephanieH17, you will get them for $26. That's 33% off. With my code stephanieH17, you can also get 20% off any body body wash or toothpaste, and that's a deal that you cannot pass up. I mean, you can. I'm not telling you what to do, but you'll be sad if you do. Thank you so much to Native for sponsoring today's video, and let's dive in. So this video should really be titled, "The Numerous Grown-Ass Adults Who Failed Harmony Montgomery." I just don't think that YouTube would appreciate that title. I would love to tell you what kind of child Harmony is, what she loved to do, her favorite color, her favorite subject in school, her favorite movie. Was she an active child? Did she like to play sports, or was she more the type to sit in a corner and lose herself in a book? What stuffed animal did she insist on going to bed with every night? All of these little details, they transform a person from a one-dimensional outline to a fully fleshed out individual. But I don't really have any of those details. I don't know who Harmony is. I don't know what made her special, but I do know that she's very special. Sadly, I think that those details aren't available because it seems that there really wasn't one person in the world who took enough time to find these things out about this little girl who has not been seen for 2 years. And that's because Harmony Montgomery was born on June 14th, 2014, into a situation where she was no one's top priority. Harmony and her little brother Jameson spent most of their young lives in foster care due to their chaotic and toxic family life. Before she was even born, Harmony's father, Adam Montgomery, had already pled guilty to armed robbery and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon after he broke into a Malden, Massachusetts apartment and threatened 2 women with a pellet gun. The Boston Globe reported that Adam Montgomery demanded money from the 2 women and even held the gun to one of their necks at some point before police arrived and detained Montgomery and another man that he was with. Adam Montgomery allegedly pointed the pellet gun at one of the police officers before he was wrestled to the ground and arrested. In 2014, when Harmony was just 4 months old, Adam Montgomery was arrested for shooting a man in the face while attempting to buy 3 grams of heroin outside of the victim's apartment. He was later charged with armed robbery, armed assault, carrying a firearm without a license, and discharging a firearm within 500 feet of a building, and he spent 18 months in prison. In July of 2007, Adam Montgomery was accused of following a 15-year-old girl into her home, shouting at her that she had stolen his cell phone, and even though he was charged with burglary and misdemeanor simple assault, the case was dismissed in January of 2008. But in September of 2007, he was charged with criminally threatening his 15-year-old girlfriend with a knife, and for that he was sentenced to 110 days in jail. That'll show him. In May of 2008, an 18-year-old Adam Montgomery was charged with stabbing a minor in the leg and pushing him out of a moving vehicle. According to Lieutenant Robert Cunha, the incident happened because Adam Montgomery believed he'd been sold fake drugs, and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Out of that 4-year sentence, he only served 383 days. That'll show him. So it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways, Adam Montgomery has had a drug problem for quite some time, as well as a problem with violence. Harmony's mother, Crystal Sorey, also had a small criminal record from 2011, 1 count of theft and 1 count of receiving stolen property, and she also struggled with drugs for quite some time. In July of 2018, when Harmony was 4, she and her little brother Jameson were placed in the Massachusetts foster care system after their mother, Crystal, lost custody due to her issue with drugs. Jameson was adopted in November of 2019 by Blair and Jonathan Miller, a couple who already had adopted 2 other sons. At this time, Blair Miller was an anchor for WFXT, Boston TV 25 News, and Jonathan was a paramedic. When they began to foster Jameson, it was always their intention to adopt him permanently. But when they learned from the boy that he had a sister named Harmony, whom he was very close with, they inquired about adopting her as well to keep the siblings together. Blair Miller said, quote, Jameson was in and out of a lot of different homes, and along the way, Harmony was there with him for some of those homes. They went through a lot together and had a very close relationship at times. We hear stories of Harmony trying to help Jameson and just look out for Jameson along the way, so it was very important to us that their relationship continue. Jameson has yearned for this relationship with Harmony. He talks about her. We can recall many stories where, like at a baseball game, we were leaving and he thought he saw a girl that looked like his sister and he said, "There's Harmony." It breaks your heart to see. Just the other night, he drew a picture of Harmony. He'll tell his teacher, "I have a sister. Her name is Harmony. She had blonde hair, glasses, and blue eyes." He's very proud of Harmony and has been since day one of coming into our family. End quote. Now, the Millers had remained in contact with Harmony and Jameson's mother, Crystal, and they had brought up the idea of also adopting Harmony. But when they reached out to Adam Montgomery directly through social media to ask if they could get the kids together, he never responded, and they soon found out that Montgomery had been awarded full custody of Harmony by a Massachusetts judge. Adam had promptly removed Harmony from the state and brought her to Manchester, New Hampshire, where he lived with his wife, Kayla Montgomery, and the 3 children that they shared together, aged 1, 2, and 4. Now, Crystal's sorry. She did eventually seek out treatment. She got herself clean and sober, and at that point, she began trying to locate her daughter. She claims that starting in May or June of 2019, she made 27 calls to DCF and DCYF trying to locate Harmony after finding out that Harmony had been adopted by her father, Adam. Crystal said, quote, "I told DCYF a million times that it was not a good idea. I knew something would happen. Nobody listened to me. I told them this man shouldn't have her. He's short-tempered with her. He had a short temper with me. He was very controlling. He was controlling with me, and I knew with Harmony being his firstborn, he had some kind of spite over me. His own blood family said the same thing. Did you even look at his record? No. He barely went to visits. He barely tried." End quote. Crystal claims that Adam Montgomery was a violent man and he often choked her even when she was pregnant with Harmony. Crystal believed that the only reason Adam wanted Harmony was to spite the child's mother. On November 18, 2021, Crystal Sorey called the Manchester, New Hampshire Police Department and told them that she had not seen her daughter since April of 2019 when she talked to Harmony on a FaceTime call during which her daughter seemed to be scared. She said, quote, "He stopped my visits 3 days before Easter 2019 because of the last FaceTime I had with her. He totally blocked me and everything. I right away had a bad feeling because of how he was acting in the visits. He would sit on top of us, basically. I barely could have any privacy with her. FaceTimes, he was muting it, yelling at her, telling her what to say, what not to say. It was all suspicious to me, all of it. She just looked terrified and lost. Her whole entire body language had shifted in 2 months of him having her. She went from being my happy, talkative, sassy little girl to a shell of Harmony." The end of May, beginning of June 2019 was the very first time I called DCF in Massachusetts to ask them if there was any transition plan, if they'd been checking on her. Massachusetts DSF basically never did the transition plan. They never once checked on her. Massachusetts DCF is supposed to keep a case open for 6 months after placement to check to make sure you're doing the right thing. I don't understand to this day why he was able to just take her and run to New Hampshire. It blows my mind." End quote. That same day, November 18th, Crystal sent a letter to the office of Joyce Craig, the mayor of Manchester, New Hampshire. The email was titled, "My daughter is missing / in danger, and DCYF won't help." In this email, Crystal explained that Harmony's father had custody of her, but she was under the impression that Adam Montgomery was currently homeless and once again using drugs. Crystal claimed that DCYF had noted that Harmony had bruises and she was living in a home which did not have running water or electricity, but the agency had failed to remove her from this home. She went on to write, quote, "Now it's a year later and DCYF has done nothing to help me find her. She's supposed to be in 1st grade. He never enrolled her in school this whole time. She's missed important doctor's appointments she's had since a baby due to a disability in her eye. Please, I'm begging for help in finding my daughter before she ends up like that little boy that just passed away due to neglect through the department. My next step is going to go to the media to get whatever help I need to find her and bring her home safe." End quote. Now, the little boy that Crystal is referring to in this email was Elijah Lewis, a 5-year-old boy from New Hampshire who was found dead in October of 2021. His death was ruled a homicide due to violence and neglect, including facial injuries, scalp injuries, acute fentanyl intoxication, malnourishment, and pressure ulcers. Now, Crystal did receive a response to this email from Annabelle Morendo Mendez, a woman who works in the mayor's office, and the response said, quote, "Unfortunately, the city doesn't have jurisdiction over DCYF or the court system. I encourage you to reach out to the New Hampshire legal assistants to see if they would be able to review your case and provide legal assistance on the custody issue." End quote. Hold on a second. Can you imagine, and I'm not saying that the mayor's office did anything wrong here, but can you imagine that you're a mother and you haven't talked to your daughter or seen your daughter in years, right? You've been trying to find her allegedly since 2019, and you finally are so fed up, you send this email and you're like, listen, if you guys don't help me, I'm going to the media. And your response is like, you should reach out to legal assistance so they can help you with the custody issue. Like, something like that's going to take months. You can't find your daughter. You haven't talked to her. You don't know where she's even living. Crystal went to addresses in New Hampshire that she thought Adam and Harmony were living at. She went to schools that she thought maybe Harmony would be enrolled in. No sign of this child. And the response that you get when you're like, I'm at the end of my rope, I'm going to go to the media, I've been asking for help for years, is you should call a lawyer and see if they can help you with the custody issue. The custody issue is not the problem here. The fact that Harmony is missing is the problem. But I digress. This email from Crystal was forwarded to the Manchester Police Department, and Crystal was contacted that same day by a detective who told her that they had started an investigation into Harmony's whereabouts. Big round of applause. The next day, Crystal received word from a supervisor from the New Hampshire Division of Children, Youth, and Families, DCYF, who told her that they were also investigating because the police had called them requesting a list of previous addresses where Adam Montgomery had resided. It was not until December 27th of 2021 that DCYF told law enforcement that they were unable to locate Adam or Harmony, and detectives began seeking out family members who may be able to give them insights as to where Adam and his daughter were. On December 30th, 2021, Detective Christopher Abel made contact with Adam's brother, Michael Montgomery. Michael told detectives that he had raised concerns about his niece's well-being because the last time he had seen Adam and Harmony, he suspected that his brother had been abusive to the then 5-year-old girl. Michael said that Adam was very short with Harmony, and he'd heard from other family members that Harmony had been seen with a black eye. Michael directed Detective Abel to Kevin Montgomery, Adam's uncle, and Kevin told detectives that he had not seen Harmony or Adam since late 2019. Kevin had a lot to say on the topic. Specifically, he was angry because he'd called DCYF back in 2019, but nothing had been done. Kevin claims he had visited his nephew Adam after returning from a trip to Florida in July of 2019, and when he saw that Harmony had a black eye, he asked Adam what had happened. According to Kevin Montgomery, Adam told him that he had given Harmony the job of watching her little brother while he went to the bathroom. When Adam heard his son crying, he ran out to find that Harmony had placed her hand over the boy's mouth to stop him from crying. So Adam had bashed her around the house, resulting in the black eye. Kevin also said that Adam often went too far with his punishments of Harmony. She was often spanked very hard, and she would be forced to stand in the corner, not allowed to use the bathroom, and basically having no other choice but to soil herself. And Adam had also forced her to clean the toilets using her own toothbrush. The last time that Kevin Montgomery had seen Harmony was in October of 2019, when there'd been some sort of altercation between himself and his nephew Adam at their Manchester home located at 77 Guilford Street. Apparently, Adam had refused to let Kevin enter the house, and when Kevin tried to push through, he was blocked. There was arguments, pushing, and that caused Kevin to call the police. As a result of this argument, Adam blocked Kevin and most of his family on social media. Now, when Kevin had been at the house in October, he said he had caught sight of Harmony, and he said that she looked like a scared puppy. Kevin had notified DCYF. He had informed them about his concerns, but nothing ever happened, even though he had let them know that he believed Adam had relapsed and was using drugs again. Law enforcement also spoke to Harmony's great-grandmother, who told them that she'd found out Adam Montgomery had checked into rehab in July of 2021. And when she found that out, she'd reached out to DCYF to find out where Harmony was, because, if Adam's in rehab, "Where's Harmony?" but the response she received was blunt and offered no answers. She claims that the agency told her that Harmony wasn't in their system, she wasn't in their custody, and they did not have a case open for her. Now, I want to be fair that I don't know if she contacted DCYF in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, because if she contacted DCYF in Massachusetts, by the time she talked to them, Harmony would have been with Adam Montgomery in New Hampshire and would have been under the care of New Hampshire DCYF. So once again, that's not clear, and I'm trying to be fair here. It's not easy, but I'm trying. Detectives with the Manchester Police Department then located Adam Montgomery's wife, Kayla Montgomery. Kayla claimed that the last time she had seen Harmony was in November of 2019 before she left for work in the morning. She claimed that her husband Adam had told her that he'd driven Harmony to Lowell, Massachusetts, and he left her with her mother, Crystal. And then Kayla never saw or heard anything about Harmony after that point. Kayla also said that yes, Harmony did have a black eye for a while, but she'd gotten it after being hit in the face with a toy thrown at her by one of the other children. Okay. On November 27, 2019, the entire family had been evicted from their home, and they began living in their two vehicles, a 2010 silver Chrysler Sebring and a 2006 blue Audi S4. Kayla Montgomery's mother, remember Kayla Montgomery is Adam Montgomery's wife, her mother, Christina Lubin, claims that the last time she saw Harmony was in the winter of 2019, and she couldn't remember the exact date until she had talked to her daughter, who reminded her that it had been the day after Thanksgiving. Christina Lubin said that Adam, Kayla, and their children had been basically living with her after that from December 6th on, and Harmony was not with them at that point. But when she asked, Kayla had told her that Harmony was back with her mother.
I knew it was in the wintertime. I wasn't exactly sure when. And when I spoke with my daughter, she was telling me it was the day after Thanksgiving. Okay?
That last year in 2020 or 2021?
No, that was in 2019.
And did you ever ask your daughter where she was after that? That you never saw her again?
Well, she told me that because they came here the end of December during the holidays, and they were here briefly. I asked her, I'm like, well, I expected Harmony to do them, and they said no. And I know they've been kind of living on the streets and in a car kind of thing. And well, she didn't say no. She said she's with her mother. And I didn't question it because I didn't know until all the news, the history of the family.
Kayla also told detectives that she had not seen her husband since October of 2021, and the last time she spoke to him was the following November after he'd left a sober house and began living with his new girlfriend in Maine. But apparently, Adam Montgomery did attempt to connect with Kayla because according to Kayla's mother, Christina, Kayla and her 3 children had been living with her since March 21st, 2021, due to domestic violence at the hands of her husband, Adam Montgomery. On July 2nd, 2021, Christina Lubin filed a restraining order on Adam when he showed up at her house and lingered outside, apparently knocking on the windows. 2 days later, Christina Lubin's boyfriend found a steak knife on the ground near where Adam was seen by neighbors, knocking on the windows. Christina Lubin said that Adam had been a sweet guy for the first couple of years, but now she realized he was not sweet at all. He was pure evil.
He can sweet talk and swindle like he did with us for the 2 years, and then everything he points the finger at everybody else and talks up quite the storm, and it's a lot of, he talks like jail talk. That's all I can
What
say.
about abuse? The allegation yesterday was he was abusive towards Harmony.
I don't know about that because I didn't.
On December 31st, 2021, patrol officers found Adam and his new girlfriend, Kelsey Small, sleeping in a vehicle on Harvell Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Kelsey told the police that she'd been seeing Adam for about a year, and while she was aware that he had 3 children from a previous relationship with Kayla, she did not know anything about Harmony, and Adam never mentioned Harmony. Kelsey also said that during her time with Adam, he had not been in contact with any of his children. Father of the Year. Detective Dunn Levy talked to Adam and asked where Harmony was, and initially Adam said that Harmony was fine and he had seen her somewhere recently. But as the conversation continued, Adam admitted that he had not seen Harmony since her mother, Crystal, had come to pick her up around Thanksgiving of 2019. Now, obviously, this is a change in story because Kayla Montgomery says that Adam drove Harmony to Lowell, Massachusetts to drop her off at her mother's. But now Adam's saying that Crystal, Harmony's mother, came to pick her up. And obviously, Crystal doesn't have Harmony with her because she's the one that reported her missing. So the police told Adam, listen, our only goal is to locate Harmony to make sure she's safe. We don't care what you're doing here with your girlfriend in the car. Obviously, you're doing drugs. We don't care. We just want to find Harmony. And that's pretty fair, I think. You know, this guy's clearly up to no good. But the police are saying, like, all of that, it's in the past. We don't need to look at it. We're going to turn a blind eye to that. But where's your daughter? And at that point, Adam told them he had nothing else to say. And if he wasn't under arrest, he was going to leave. He was going to just open his car door and get back in there. In his report, Detective Dunleavy said, quote, Adam did not exhibit much emotion or reaction to this. Adam said he believed Harmony was in Massachusetts with her mother. Adam claimed he did not know why Crystal would say anything to the contrary, end quote. Of course, Crystal says this never happened, and at the time she was living with her boyfriend, Joseph Eckhart, in Lowell, Massachusetts, and Eckhart said that he'd been living with Crystal since October of 2019, and he had never even actually met Harmony in person. She definitely wasn't living there with them. On January 4th, 2022, Adam Montgomery was arrested and charged with second-degree assault, stemming from the black eye that he had allegedly given Harmony back in 2019. He was also charged with interfering with custody and child endangerment. He's pleaded not guilty, and he's currently being held without bail. On this same day, Adam's estranged wife, Kayla, was also arrested and charged with welfare fraud, after it was discovered that she had continued to collect food stamps in Harmony's name, even after Harmony clearly was no longer living with her. Between December of 2019 and June of 2021, Kayla Montgomery had obtained over $1,500 in food stamps benefits since she'd failed to remove Harmony's name from their family's state assistance account, even though she knew Harmony had not been living with her since November of 2019. That's what she said. That's what she told police, that the last time she saw Harmony was November of 2019. To these charges, Kayla pled not guilty. Like, how can you plead not guilty to that? You know, like, it's pretty obvious what happened here. But anyways, there's been some weird stuff going on with her charges. Apparently, prosecutors said that they were going to drop those charges and replace them with 9 other charges, including felony theft and then a bunch of unspecified misdemeanor charges that they haven't really been clear about. We don't know what's happening with that, but Kayla's mother, Christina Lubin, she claims that she believes her daughter when Kayla says she had nothing to do with Harmony's disappearance and she doesn't know where Harmony is. Christina Lubin says that she's drilled Kayla because Kayla does have a history of lying and being dishonest, but Christina brought up her children to tell the truth, and she knows her daughter well enough to know when Kayla's not telling the truth. She said Kayla has a good heart, and her story has remained consistent, so she believes she's being honest. Now, New Hampshire Assistant Attorney General Jesse O'Neill said that the new charges against Kayla cover a time when Harmony was completely unaccounted for. Law enforcement believes that Harmony vanished during a very brief window of time, and that window of time was after the date that Kayla claimed to have last seen Harmony. After the family was evicted, they lived in their cars between November 28th and December 10th of 2019. Authorities released a statement that multiple individuals had seen Harmony with her father and stepmother in the days following the November 27th eviction, but by December 6th, Harmony was no longer with Adam and Kayla. They were only seen with the 3 children that they shared. So in mid-January 2021, Crystal Sorey claimed that she believed Adam Montgomery had sold their daughter in exchange for drugs. She said, quote, I think he sold her because the same week that they're saying this happened, the day after Thanksgiving to December 6th, was the week after my son got legally adopted on the news. He knew what my son looked like, he saw that, and I really think that's connected. I think he got the idea from seeing that and was like, oh, I can do it legally, end quote. So let me translate a little bit for you because Crystal doesn't mean that her son Jameson got adopted on the news. She means that she believes Adam saw that Jameson was adopted on the news. And And this was because apparently in the area, the Boston area, this was a pretty big deal. This got some media coverage because one of Jamison's adopted fathers was a news anchor. So I do think it was pretty public and on the news. Crystal also says that she had told everyone that Adam should not get custody of Harmony, but no one listened to her because she was a drug addict. But she also claims to accept her part in what happened to her daughter, saying, quote, "I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm innocent. I'm a recovering addict. When I gave birth to her, I didn't know anything about being a parent. I didn't know anything about getting in recovery, but I never stopped trying," end quote. And that's true. I do feel, obviously, that Crystal also failed Harmony. I think she would admit that herself. When Harmony was born, Crystal didn't know what she was doing. She got involved in drugs. And when people get involved in drugs, and those people are parents, the drugs usually come before the child. That's just the reality, the harsh reality of it. And I would like to say that I don't blame the person, because it's you are a different person, you're taken over by something, but you did make the decision to get yourself involved in these substances to begin with. So there is some accountability that needs to be taken. And I think that she has taken that, and she is clean now, and she did make an attempt to find her daughter, which doesn't give her Mother of the Year award, but definitely puts her in a better position than Adam Montgomery. Crystal does believe that Harmony is still alive out there somewhere, so she's holding on to this hope, and she'll never stop trying to find her. Crystal said, quote, "I don't feel like I lost her, and a mother knows. A mother knows if your baby is here or not. I know she's here. We just want her to know how much she's loved, and we just want her to come home. If you know anything about my baby, please, I'm begging you, come forward so she can come home," end quote. So Crystal's theory here is that Adam sold Harmony to get money for drugs. And hopefully whoever bought Harmony bought her because they wanted a little child, or they wanted a child of their own and they couldn't have one. But there are other nefarious reasons why somebody might purchase a child, and we're going to get to that in a little bit here. I don't know how plausible it is that Harmony might still be alive at this point, because there's been a lot of news coverage about it. And you would think that whoever had purchased this child would come forward and be like, oh, I have the child. But also, if you're purchasing a child in some back alley adoption, probably you wouldn't. You would just hope that nobody would ever find out about it. It's not looking good. And now, as with most other cases of this nature, the blame game starts. Who bears the responsibility for a 5-year-old girl vanishing and not being reported missing for 2 years? Who needs to answer for this? Is it the parents, the police, DCFS, the judge who made the decision to put Harmony in the care of her father? God forbid that everyone just put their egos aside and work together to try and locate Harmony. No, that seems to be far too much work when pointing fingers at everyone else is much easier. But I can make it easy for you, because my answer is all of the above. Newly released records show that the police were repeatedly called to the home of Harmony Montgomery in 2019. Sometimes they were called several times a week. More than half of those calls involved some kind of domestic disturbance, reports of screaming and fighting, as well as neighbors concerned about the living conditions in the home where several young children resided. Apparently, there were extension cords all over the house that led to a generator in the garage since the power was shut off. And there were also concerns about a rather aggressive pit bull that lived in the home who went by the name Mama. Multiple police reports referenced contact with the state's welfare agency. During the summer of 2019, the Manchester police helped DCFS with a condition check. In the following September, the police contacted DCFS about the home again, writing, quote, "We've dealt with this address quite a bit in the last couple of months," end quote. When a neighbor called the police in August with concerns about young children living in a house with no electricity and trash everywhere, DCFS was contacted, and officials determined that everyone was home, the generator was running, there was food in the house, and all was well.
News Nation obtaining these photos from inside the last known house missing 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery lived in. They show the bedrooms, kitchen, and inside the refrigerator. And you can see extension cords running throughout the house, hooked up to a generator outside because neighbors say the power was cut off. This is the house where police say Harmony's dad, Adam Montgomery, abused the little girl, even causing a black eye.
You're doing extreme punishments to her. She all kinds of stuff like that the therapist had gotten out of her just by playing dolls in a dollhouse. Imagine. I was horrified. I was like, no. I told DCF, and that was that. Like months later, they hand over custody.
How is it possible she got to stay with him after all of that?
I don't understand. I still don't understand to this day.
Harmony's mom says she warned New Hampshire's Division of Children, Youth, and Families about the abuse, but was ignored. They also haven't responded to our emails or calls since last week. So we showed up to their offices today.
Hi, my name is Brian Hinton. I'm a reporter with News Nation. We've been trying to get in touch with the department, the director, about the...
Is he filming?
He is filming, yes.
Okay, turn around, because I don't, this side of it's not public. And I will call somebody for you.
We waited, and a representative from the communications office arrived.
Hi, Jake Leon, communications
Hey,
director
how
for
you doing? I'm
DHHS.
Brian. I'm from News Nation.
Yeah, you just called me like an hour ago.
Yeah,
that's
we've
cool.
been
You didn't tell me you were on your way.
Well, we've been emailing, calling since last week. Is there concern here about the fact that she was missing for 2 years and no one knew?
I really am not able to get into that because it's due to confidentiality.
I feel like the only person who's not really trying to shift blame in this situation is Police Chief Alan Aldenberg, who is the Manchester police chief, and he was asked during a press conference about the agency's involvement, the DCYF involvement, to which he responded, quote, "I'm not going to point fingers at any other agency because I don't think it's going to do the investigation any good." End quote. Yes, Chief Aldenberg, it won't do the investigation any good. Chief Aldenberg claims that he has not given up hope that Harmony can be found alive, but he is certain that someone knows something, and if they would just come forward, it could completely change the course of this investigation. Aldenberg says that in his 25 years of law enforcement, he's never seen such a delay in reporting a child missing, and having lost 2 years in the search for Harmony is the most frustrating thing of all. And he said something that's very important. He said, quote, "If mistakes were made, then you have to have honest discussions about those. And if that lands at my door, then I'll address it and be open about it. But if I'm going to be open, then everybody else that was involved in this case needs to be open as well." End quote. And I agree. This is the right thing to do. Take accountability and demand accountability from the other agencies and individuals involved so that we can move forward, so that we can learn something from this, so we can hopefully find harmony. But as we know, transparency is not DCYF's strong suit. On January 13th, 2022, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu announced that he had already instructed DCYFS to begin an internal review of Harmony's case, saying, quote, "Not just where we are in the specific case, but was there any point where information wasn't being transmitted? Was there any point where we hit a roadblock and or didn't respond to something or anything like that?" End quote. I'd say yes. I mean, I don't have the documents that you probably have, Chris, but I would say yes. Is that a rhetorical question? He also claimed that his agency in New Hampshire stayed on top of this case, and his real problem was with the Massachusetts court system, saying, quote, "Harmony's father, Adam Montgomery, is a monstrous drug dealer with previous convictions, including shooting someone in the head and a separate armed attack on 2 women. You owe it to Harmony Montgomery, her loved ones, and the public to fully cooperate in handing over the imperative information on this case." End quote. So this was in a letter that Sununu wrote to Chief Justice Kimberly Budd of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. And in this letter, he was telling her that DCFS was completing an internal review. And he said, quote, "As that review proceeds, new questions are emerging regarding decisions within your court system that have had a profoundly negative impact on Harmony's well-being." End quote. Apparently, in December of 2018, before custody had been awarded to Adam Montgomery, the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families had requested that a home study be done of Adam and Kayla Montgomery. The New Hampshire Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children Unit had responded back to Massachusetts DCF, stating they needed more information about Adam and Kayla before doing this. Isn't that what you're doing it for, so you can get more information? But while they were waiting for that information, a judge awarded full custody to Adam Montgomery. So Governor Sununu, he writes to Kimberly Budd, like ripping her a new one for the decision of the judge and the court, and then for a lack of follow-up on behalf of DCYF in Massachusetts, which, I mean, yes, I'm with you, all valid concerns, but I like to have my own house clean before I judge someone else's mess. What about you guys? Let's take a look at the hot mess that New Hampshire's Child Welfare Department is, shall we? New Hampshire DCYF is historically one of the worst performing agencies of its kind in the country. It lags behind other states in caseworkers per child due to funding being slashed a decade ago. They have massive turnover of employees, which means that those left behind are trying to manage huge caseloads. In 2016, New Hampshire child welfare workers were assigned an average of 93 cases each. That's 7 times more than the recommendation put in place by the Child Welfare League of America. The Boston Globe reported that these issues were highlighted in federal and independent audits in both 2016 and 2018, and the state was slammed in these audits for having a fraying child protection system with a poorly paid workforce that too often failed those in need. Between 2008 and 2018, the state's spending on child welfare dropped 54%, while other states were increasing their spending on child welfare. And New Hampshire cut preventative services due to lack of funding, and cases started backlogging by the thousands. The agency has also come under fire for a string of child injuries and deaths, such as 3-year-old Brielle Gage in 2014 and Sadie Willott in 2015. In both of these cases, the parents of the children have been the subject of multiple neglect and abuse investigations before their children died. In New Hampshire, it currently takes an average of 68 days to start a DCYF-funded service after a report is received, and that is twice the national average. The Manchester office, which is the office that Harmony's case would have been handled in, it remains overwhelmed, and all but 4 of the 21 assessment caseworker positions have been turned over in the last 2 years. Anna Kerrigan, a child welfare advocate, said it best when she asked, quote, "How many kids have to die before someone decides we need to kick it into high gear? We're prioritizing adult egos over children's safety and children's lives." End quote. So Governor Sununu, while I appreciate your performative outrage, and it is well aimed, why don't you work on fixing things in your own state before you rush to place the blame at someone else's doorstep? And a question I have for you is, what did you think was more important than child welfare? What did you and your political cronies believe needed more attention and more taxpayer dollars than the safety of New Hampshire's vulnerable children? I wonder where the money went when it was pulled from child welfare. What did you choose to spend it on? That's my question for you, Chris Sununu. So hopefully you'll have an answer, but probably not. Moira O'Neill, the head of the Office of the Child Advocate, which is an independent agency that oversees DCYF, she said that they're conducting an internal investigation into Harmony's case. She's also said that she realizes that in cases such as this, the public is going to want answers, but strict federal and state laws prevent the release of certain information in order to protect the privacy of the child and the integrity of the investigation. Yes, I'm sure that Harmony, wherever she is super grateful that you're protecting her privacy so vehemently. She probably would have been more grateful if you had protected her as vehemently, but yeah, keep the privacy protected, even though she's been missing for 2 years. And at this point, there really is no investigation to compromise because the person who knows where she is, aka Ed Montgomery, he's not going to talk. So what investigation are you worried about compromising? And what privacy are you worried about protecting? Because Harmony's a 7-year-old girl at this point who's missing, who we don't know where she is, if she's okay, whose care she's in, if she's being cared for at all. She could be being tortured every single day. You're worried about her privacy. Ridiculous. Moira O'Neill went on to say, quote, "When it's time and the police investigation is completed, if we find information that we think the public would be in their best interest to know, we'd certainly share that information," end quote. We won't hold our breath, Moira. Now let's talk about the judge who made the idiotic decision to place Harmony in the custody of her drug-addicted, criminal record as long as my arm father, Judge Mark Newman, who retired in 2019 just 6 months after making this ruling. Understandably, Judge Mark Newman has been staying under the radar during the process of everyone trying to figure out what happened to little Harmony, and he doesn't really want to answer any questions about it.
When juvenile court judge Mark Newman awarded custody to Harmony's dad, Adam.
Judge Newman, we just want to ask you a couple of questions.
Months later, the little girl disappeared, and she hasn't been seen in 2 years. Her mother, Crystal Sori, who lost custody of Harmony when she was just 4 years old, is holding on to hope.
Hope is all I have right now.
Adam Montgomery is a man with a violent criminal history who had served several years behind bars. Records show his convictions include armed robbery, larceny, and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon for shooting a man he was buying heroin from in the face.
Child welfare advocate Maureen Flatley has publicly stated that Judge Newman's decision was appalling, and she said, quote, "If anybody suggested that this child might be appropriately placed with a father that had a criminal record that included shooting somebody, they really need to have their head examined," end quote. Flatley believes that the system failed Harmony in pretty much every possible way that it could, and there are questions about why the interstate compact for the placement of children did not come into play as it should every time a child like Harmony who is in state care is placed in a home across state lines. It does look as though this ISPC was initiated but never completed, and the judge made his decision without it in place, which means no one went and talked to Adam Montgomery or did a home visit to make sure that it was a suitable place for a child to live. Judge Newman would not talk to the media, and the internal investigation is being kept secret from the public, but another experienced juvenile judge named Jay Blitzman did talk to Channel 5 Investigates. Now, Blitzman says that the major question is going to center around the criminal record of Adam Montgomery. Was this judge made aware of this record? It is the job of the DCYF lawyers to present evidence to the judge, and the judge can only make a decision based on the evidence that he or she is presented with. Blitzman said, quote, "Were police reports offered concerning the underlying conduct? Were witnesses called regarding those incidents? The reality is that many parents have criminal records. That is not a per se disqualifier. There's got to be a connection to criminal history and the ability to adequately parent a child," end quote. All right. I'm getting so mad. So let's say that the ICPC, the Child Compact, had been completed before the decision to place Harmony with her father had been made. This would have given Judge Newman far more information to work with, and while I understand that many people have criminal records, and having a criminal record does not make you a bad person or an unfit parent, can we just exercise some critical thinking here for a moment? We're talking about a violent criminal record. We're talking about shooting someone in the face over a drug deal. We're talking about forcing yourself into the apartment of two young women that you do not know and holding them hostage with a weapon. We aren't talking about shoplifting. We're not talking about a DWI. If I'm a judge and I see this record, I don't necessarily need witnesses and police statements. And although that would be nice, if I didn't have those things, I would still ask questions, right? I would try to dig deeper. Hey, this guy seems unstable and violent. Are we sure he's the best choice? Can I get more information about his crimes and his life and his history before I make this decision that's going to have a maximum impact on the life of a small child who's already been through so much? Is there anyone else who wants to adopt her or care for her besides this man? Oh, there is? A nice couple who have already adopted her biological brother so we can keep these kids together in the safe custody of two people who have never shot anyone in the face? Well, that sounds like a far better option. Then we hear from Chris Cook, an attorney and the president of a union that represents DCYF lawyers. So remember, Judge Jay Blitzman said that it's not really on the judge to ask for more information. It's on the DCYF lawyer to provide this information. So of course, Chris Cook, he's going to go into, kind of a defensive mode, lest the blame fall on his people. And when I tell you, while I was reading this man's words, I became livid. Like, all the blood drained from my hands and feet went right to my chest. I felt like my heart was going to explode. My body went into straight fight or flight mode, and I wasn't going to choose flight. And it's not necessarily his fault. He just happens to be last on a long list of people spouting bullshit. And at that point, I think that my skin was pretty thin. But Chris Cook said, quote, "My members, the DCF attorneys in the northern region, almost all of them have caseloads hovering around 100, which is astounding. I'm praying that Harmony is found, obviously. And I'm also praying that if she's not, that we look at this case thoughtfully at every level," end quote. Everyone has thoughts and prayers. So many people who have come forward to comment on this case, they're all hoping and praying that Harmony's okay. But honestly, keep your prayers, because at this point your prayers are basically just like wishes. And you know what they say, wish in one hand and shit in the other, see which one fills up first. We don't need prayers and thoughts. We need action. The people of this country who pay taxes to make sure that government agencies are in place to protect the citizens, to protect the weak and vulnerable, we need action. We need Judge Newman and Chris Cook and Moira O'Neill and Governor Chris Sununu, all of these people who are cogs in the system. We need them to stand up and say, enough is enough. One person cannot change the system. One person cannot fight an army, but there are strength in numbers. And if this system that was put into place to protect children is not protecting children, then it's time for a change. It's time to work together. It's time to stop blaming each other and not only demand change, but actively work towards it. These government workers, they're either trying to throw each other under the bus or cover up each other's wrongdoings. And if this continues, nothing will get done. There needs to be honest conversations, genuine admittance of flaws and problems, and real compassion towards the people who pay your salary. Because all these pretty words, they do jack shit for Harmony Montgomery. They do jack shit for Oakley Carlson or for Kendrick Lee or any of the other dozens of children that we have talked about on this channel who have been failed by their parents, by their communities, by law enforcement, by DCYF, by everyone. And the worst part is there are thousands more cases that we never even hear about. Children whose names we will never know, whose faces we will never see, who disappear without a trace or anyone to remember them. These kids get shuffled about, abused, neglected, left alone, put in danger, and then forgotten about. Before we go, let's talk about Crystal Sorey, Harmony's mother, and her theory that Adam Montgomery sold Harmony for money so that he could buy drugs. While at first glance, this theory sounds implausible, like something that would only happen in movies or weird conspiracy theories, it's actually very possible, and it happens far more than any of us would like to believe. The thought that a parent would sell their own child for drugs or for anything, it is far too traumatic to think about. But we cannot turn a blind eye to the realities of the world we live in, no matter how uncomfortable those realities are. In 2017, two California parents, Vincent Calogero and Sarah Nilsson, attempted to exchange their two sons for money so that they could buy drugs. In 2019, Esmeralda Garza sold her son to a woman in Texas for $2,500. A further investigation revealed that Garza was in the process of selling her other two children, ages 2 and 3. She later told law enforcement that she and her boyfriend had decided to sell the children to pay off a drug debt. In China, in 2020, two young parents traded their newborn baby for $7,000. Just hours after he was born, they immediately took that money and bought crystal meth and new cell phones. Also in 2020, Larry Dean Porter was arrested in Cincinnati, Ohio for his involvement in a trafficking ring. He allegedly abused both boys and girls with the consent of these kids' parents, and in exchange he gave them money or illegal drugs. And Porter did this for 8 years. 8 years he did this. And later, Porter told police that some of the mothers of the children had participated in this abuse. In March of 2020, he was finally arrested after offering $80 to the parents of a 7-year-old girl, obviously for that 7-year-old girl. Savannah Parvu is a young woman who now speaks openly about her experiences as a child, hoping to raise awareness for the plight of children who are used as pawns and currency by the parents they were unlucky enough to be born to. Savannah was 11 years old when her mother first sold her to a man for $10 worth of cocaine. Savannah became pregnant twice, and she was forced to terminate those pregnancies. She said, quote, "I had to do this to make my mom want me. If I refused to do it, it would just be worse for me because I would get beaten or I would be gone longer than if I would just cooperate." End quote. And there are hundreds more stories just like these, so yeah. It happens, and it's possible, but we still do not have any idea where Harmony is. She could still be out there. She could still be alive. And with that in mind, please become my army today. Please become Harmony's army today. Please keep an eye out for this little girl. And if you see anything or hear anything, or if you see any little girl that looks like her, please call the Manchester Police Department at 603-203-6060. That line is monitored 24 hours a day, and tips can be sent via text or call. Thank you guys so much for being here. I do not have an elaborate outro. I'm very annoyed and upset and mad and angry right now. So just make sure to share this video if you think it's worth sharing. I think it's worth sharing, so please share it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it so that you can get it in the algorithm. Follow me on social media. My handles are in the description box. Also, the link for Native is in the description box. The link for my podcast, Crime Weekly, that I co-host every week with retired police detective Derek Levesser, that's also in the description box. With that being said, I am going to leave you. Stay kind, stay beautiful, stay safe, and I will see you very soon.
Straight down, and that river runs deep, the mountains get steep, and the voices getting too loud. All these feelings I've buried, it's looking like a cemetery. They're coming back from the grave, calling out my name, better say I Hail Mary. Well, you don't know how deep it goes until it's getting you slowly. So you got to let it go. I got blood on the strings.